Good afternoon. It's 1 o'clock, and our first committee meeting of the day is the Planning and Economic Development Committee. Those committee members are Kamer, Connor, Bolden, Boyes, and Hannah. We do have all members present except for Councilman Bolden. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Yeah, we'll move forward, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. We will move forward and call the planning meeting to order, please. All members are present except for Councilman Bolden at the moment. We did have a meeting last week. If I can get approval of those minutes, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of the minutes, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? All right, well, thank you. We do have three pieces in front of us today that are up for a public hearing, and then we have one new piece on our new legislation for the day. So, moving forward, we'll start the public hearing, and we'll also do a public hearing later today at 5 p.m. So everyone that's going to participate in the public hearing today are welcome back this evening at 5 p.m. So with that, our first public hearing, I'll ask our clerk of council to read that in.
The first item up for public hearing today is an ordinance approving the 2026 Consolidated Plan Annual Action Plan, including applications and certifications for the Community Development Block Grant, the Home Investment Partnership, and Emergency Solutions Grant programs, authorizing the Director of Planning and Urban Development to enter into all necessary contracts for the operation and term of the programs and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. And we do have, please make note that Councilman Bolden is with us now. Helen Tomic, please, from our planning department.
Good afternoon, committee chair, committee members, members of City Council. The City of Akron's 2026 Annual Consolidated Plan prioritizes a budget of expenditures for the Department of Housing and Urban Development, for Community Development Block Grant Funds, Home Investment Partnership Grant Program, and Emergency Solutions Grant Program for the homeless. The goals of the program are to assist primarily low and moderate income people, to improve existing housing conditions, to develop affordable housing, and expand economic opportunities in addition to aiding the homeless. The 2026 budget is approximately $8.5 million. This includes approximately $5.8 million of Community Development Block Grant Funds, which is a 0.4% increase from 2025. $1.57 million from Home Investment Partnership Funds, which is about a 5.1 increase from 2025, and approximately $512,000 of Emergency Solutions Grant Program, which is approximately a 0.3% decrease. We are also budgeting approximately $412,000 of anticipated program income from both the Home Program Funds and Community Development Block Grant Program. The 2026 plan has among its recommendations continuing the Akron Housing Program in partnership with the LED program, continued new housing construction, supporting the community development corporations, supporting the minor home repair program, assisting local and emergency shelters and transitional housing shelters, support for a community services program, supporting the Great Streets program. The consolidated strategy includes a narrative describing the housing needs of low-income families, homeless families, and others with special needs. The consolidated plan is a one-year budget going from January 1 through December 31st of 2026. With that, we open it up for comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. I appreciate that presentation. All right, we'll move forward, and with this item, if there's anyone here that would like to speak in favor or against, please stand up so our clerk of council could swear you in. I'd appreciate that. All right, seeing no one, and no one's online with us, correct?
Correct.
All right, thank you. Now I'll close the public comment period and open it up to any council members that are on the committee if they have any questions or comments for Helen Tomic. I do see Bruce Bolden first, Councilman.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Tomic, question. You mentioned the lead. That's the lead paint program, right? That was a grant?
Correct.
Who is in charge? It used to be Doug used to do that in housing rehab, correct?
That is correct.
Who is in charge of that program now? Because I know it's pretty big.
We are in transition right now. I would refer you to Director Euphrancia Lash regarding any questions for the LED program.
Okay. All right. I'll do that. I'm sure he'll be here at 2 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate that. Councilman Hannah?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there any money involved or grants for those tiny homes yet through some of these grants?
The question that keeps on giving. Thank you, Councilman, for that question, which I'm happy to address. We have, as folks are aware, we did commit funding to a program in your ward down on Exeter with access to help them build 10 small homes for homeless veterans. We also are evaluating another proposal for a similar project. And we periodically release requests for proposals for projects and evaluate those as they come based upon criteria that are clearly established in there, including, leverage their ability to bring other funding to the table and their ability to meet critical housing needs. There's potentially more projects like this along the way. We're also thinking about, if there are ways that we can support these types of projects through some clear development standards and how they might fit into different zoning districts and things like that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate that. Anyone else on the committee? Councilwoman, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know there are some new programs in here for this year that weren't in the prior year. What other changes, increases, decreases have happened in the 2026 plan?
We were looking at a decrease for the waiver demolition program. I believe in '25 it was at $400,000. In 2026 we're recommending $150,000. The other significant, the other decrease is the minor home repair program, which is a partnership with Rebuilding Together. We're recommending $375,000 for this year simply because they still have older money. Last time I checked, they still have $100,000 remaining from their '25 grant. So we're thinking that's going to get spent out in the next couple of months. So we felt that we just decreased their funding for this year and part of next year until they catch up with spending their previous year's funds. And I think the only other change is the community CDC program. That was slightly increased. I believe last year was 500 and this year it's 550. And we've taken both of those, we've taken legislation to council in May and last week for support of the CDC program.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Linda Amobian, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have three questions. I'll start with Mr. Kyle. Can you tell me the difference between the small homes and tiny homes? And are we talking the same language in terms of, because I know a lot of the people that have tried these projects, they've either had infrastructure issues that was beneath, in the underground, some things that were on the surface that created some issues. So I'm not sure what we're talking about when we say small homes versus tiny homes.
Well, there's no legal category or category in any of our program guidelines that we have to follow, nothing in a building code that says this is what a tiny home is, right? And so what we are looking at are, does a proposal include dwelling units that meet the minimum standards that sit in the HUD guidelines and are consistent with the building code. So is it able to have a kitchen and a bathroom? It has to at least be able to have those things and sit on a foundation. And the smallest you can make it and still meet those requirements, that's a home. There's nothing that says small, tiny.
Okay.
Et cetera.
Well, let me you this. My first understanding of a tiny home was through NLC. And I know they have this little manual that they provided. Um, could you check and see if what we are calling a small home versus a tiny home, is it comparable to that? And are we talking about separate dwellings, or we're talking about things that are connected to one another?
Most of
We are,
I think most of the time people are talking about individual, separate, standalone buildings when we have this conversation. And I borrowed the term small homes, that was what the folks from Access talked about, how they described their project. So I'm just echoing them. They didn't like the term tiny homes.
yeah, I don't know if it has negative connotation, but if you could check on that, and just give us some, at least some square footage to figure out, are we talking about the same thing? Are we talking about, you know, are they similar in the design? And because we're talking mostly about homes for individuals that are homeless and people that choose not to live in certain places, but that's an option. Um, Helen, for you, I have a question. We have, you said $8.5 million is all the money for all these different programs. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You know, we talk so much about the various programs that I get totally confused as to which amount is for what. And then I hear us having extra money sometimes that we can use to do different things. Rebuilding Together, whose program is that? Who is the owner of that program?
So Rebuilding Together used to be Christmas in April, and they've changed names, so they are their own nonprofit with their own tax ID number. I don't know who the director of Rebuilding Together is, but they are
Okay.
their own entity.
Okay. Now, this is totally separate from the home repair program that we did under opera and added some dollars. All these things are totally different, I'm assuming.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
So the minor home repair program is designed for seniors and elderly homeowners who may have repairs up to $5,000, maybe new windows, gutters, or downspouts, where we assist them in making those repairs so they can stay in their homes longer. We also ask Rebuilding to set aside $50,000 in the fall to assist with furnace repairs or replacements.
So how much money do we have in the minor home repairs program for seniors?
Well, right now we have $100,000 from last year's contract, and we are recommending $375,000 for a new contract once that contract expires.
Okay. Okay. I tell you what I'll do. I'll reach out to you so I won't take
That's
up too
fine.
much more.
That's fine.
But just to get clarification. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Appreciate that. Do you have anything else? Yep, sure.
Thank you. Just catching up, to go back to the demo, the decrease in demo dollars, it's pretty significant. And I know we get demo funding from other sources like the state. Can you explain that 250, or what is it? Yeah, 250 decrease? What's the thought there?
So it was also, there is some carryover there. And then we were also looking at ways to perhaps better utilize CDBG dollars and using those dollars instead of demoing houses, perhaps looking to save them.
And is there funding in here for the saving part?
So that would be partnerships with our CDCs, and under the neighborhood revitalization and sustainability line item. That's something we're still working on.
I got you. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, Councilman Greer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I just wanted to ask and get a little clarity on the implementation of the Great Streets Micro Enterprise Program. Does that program entitle anything new beyond the facade grant program?
It is a little bit different than the facade grant. Those are grant opportunities for micro businesses where there's 5 or less employees, providing them with up to $5,000 for anything from operating costs to equipment purchases.
Okay. And what would be the total pot amount that would be available for that grant?
The total, so we're looking at $200,000, so $5,000 per business. We're also pivoting in a different direction with the Great Streets facade. We're looking at funding those through the JED program.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate that. Council Rep Wilson?
Thank you. I was just looking at the draft budget sheets from 2024 and 2025. So I'm noting, 2024 for homeless shelters, we had 527 from ESPG, and then 2025, 514, and then we're looking at 512. So we're having a documented decrease of about $15,000 over the last 2 years from ESGP.
ESGP, yes,
Okay,
that's
and
correct.
this is the federal government not giving us
Correct.
money. Do we have any insights as to why that amount of a decrease?
I would say two things. One, the allocation from Congress has been decreasing. In addition to formulas, everything here is formula-based. So they may have, those may be formula changes from one year to the next, but I'm leaning more towards the allocation that Congress allocates for this program.
Understood, and if I may, I also, I noticed that just skimming through the program was rental assistance was mostly focused on homelessness. Is there rental assistance outside of homelessness assistance?
So when we talk about rental assistance, it's either homeless prevention or rapid rehousing. So homeless prevention is when I'm living in my apartment and I'm behind in my rent, and the landlord is willing to work with me to collect back rent and move or pay back that back rent. That therefore I can stay in my apartment. Rapid rehousing is when I am in an apartment. In a homeless shelter, and I need assistance with security deposit and/or a couple months' rent. Unfortunately, the home regulations only allow for those type of activities to be funded through federal funds.
Okay, thank you. And then just a note, I know I've had some conversations and since the emails, I know we put some money in the operating budget around, homeless shelters. I sent a list of what I think are priorities, just talking with people in the field. I just wanted to bump that conversation up. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. All right, don't see any other comments or questions, so what we'll do is we'll move on and we'll repeat this process at 5 p.m. and we'll move on to our second piece that is up for public hearing this afternoon, and our clerk of council will read that in, please.
The second item up for public hearing today is an ordinance amending or supplementing Title 15, Chapter 153 Zoning Code, Article 17, Unified Planning Development District, Class UPD of the Code of Ordinances, City of Akron, 2004, to amend developmental standards and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Sarah. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, members of council and committee. The Ascot redevelopment area and plan was established in 1988 to encourage businesses to locate or expand in Akron, create employment, and secure increased tax income for the city. The Ascot Industrial Park is home to 23 manufacturing and light industrial businesses. Several of these businesses are currently expanding or have plans to expand their facilities. In addition, the city of Akron owns 7 vacant sites at the industrial park where new development is anticipated to occur within the next several years. The entire site is zoned UBD 33, which permits most commercial and ordinary industrial uses. In order to streamline the development process and better accomplish the goals of the planning department is recommending several modifications to the Ascot redevelopment plan. Under the current redevelopment plan, architectural review by Urban Design and Historic Preservation Commission and site review by Planning Commission are required. These reviews create redundant review processes that result in time delays for businesses wanting to build or expand. Under the proposed changes to the redevelopment plan, these commission reviews would be eliminated and performed administratively by the planning staff. New buildings and building additions will still need to meet the requirements of the zoning code and the development standards in the redevelopment plan. Additional modifications to the development standards include eliminating the requirements for buildings to have masonry facades, reducing the open space requirements from 30% to 10%, reducing front yard setbacks from 50 feet to 15 feet, and allowing parking in front of buildings. Modern industrial buildings are typically clad in metal panels, which is an appropriate and durable exterior material for an industrial park. The requirement for a 50-foot front yard setback creates grass areas in front of the buildings that are unnecessary and unused. The proposed changes reduce the required front setback to 15 feet, the minimum setback required for industrial uses in other parts of the city, but the minimum setback for a loading dock facing the street will be 60 feet to ensure appropriate off-street parking areas for tractor trailers. The 30% open space requirement can limit the ability of companies to expand and add jobs on their existing sites. Development projects will still need to provide 10% open space and meet the minimum yard and setback requirements for industrial buildings. Finally, the requirement that the majority of parking be located to the side or rear of the building is eliminated. Many of the existing buildings have developed parking lots in front of the buildings, and this configuration has not been detrimental to the general environment of the industrial park. The UPD 33 district regulations in the zoning code would likewise be amended to conform with the redevelopment plan's revisions by establishing a minimum building line setback of 15 feet, requiring a minimum setback of 60 feet for loading docks facing the street, and eliminating the masonry facade requirements. The proposed changes to the redevelopment plan achieve the goals of the Land Use and Development Guide Plan, including promoting the use of appropriate vacant land for development by new and existing commercial and industrial businesses. The proposed changes will continue to accomplish the the objectives of the redevelopment plan and make it easier for businesses to locate and grow in Akron. This will in turn help create job opportunities and an expanded tax base for the city, contributing to Akron's long-term economic viability. Both the planning staff and planning commission recommend approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. We'll move forward and open up the public hearing. So if there's anyone in the audience today that would like to speak in favor or against this, please stand up and our clerk of council will swear you in. All right, I don't see anyone. So we'll close the public hearing and now we'll open it up to any comments or questions from the committee members first. All right. Any other council members with us today?
I'll say something.
Do you have something, Councilman Bolden, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good to see this. I know there is still some land that is available up in Ascot Park. As in my day job, I'm up there fairly regularly. So I do see a lot of land that is developing. I like the 60-foot setback, especially for semi-trucks, because it's difficult to back into a lot of those places. If they can turn around, it makes it a lot easier. And most of those businesses there have enough room to do that. So it's good to see what we're putting in place. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate that. All right. I do see Councilman Greer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I generally agree with everything in this. I did have one question about the parking requirements and no longer requiring the parking to be on the side or in the rear. I know that we've gone over lots of data and studies that really talk about it when we're talking about wanting to make our corridors as walkable as possible, and how having these buildings closer towards the street helps with slowing of traffic, helps with that. And so I just wanted to kind of ask if there have been some more recent studies where you've seen changes on this front, because I know that's one of the things we typically want to encourage new businesses to do in our corridors.
Generally, that's absolutely correct, Councilman. We do want to encourage business development that supports pedestrian activity and is safe for folks who aren't necessarily in a car. The Ascot Industrial Park, however, is really not a pedestrian-heavy place. It's an industrial park. There aren't even sidewalks. And council did approve just 3 months ago, I think, 3 months ago, conditional use for a business that was expanding up there that allowed for parking, in the front yard side, in the front yard. So we don't feel that holding to that requirement up there necessarily advances the cause of pedestrian safety, but it certainly would constrain future development up there. And normally, in every instance, I am the biggest, loudest proponent for new development that sets the sidewalk and establishes, the pedestrian zone as the safe place to be. But in this particular instance, I think with an industrial park, we've got a different context, and so a different set of standards should apply.
Thank you, Mr. Julian.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Bolden?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Julian. I agree 100%. If we start telling businesses that they have to buy more land to put parking on the side, we're going to see property go to other industrial parks outside of our city. We have to make sure that we're business favorable. We're coming in, and that's exactly what this does. To move that parking and say you need to have more land to develop, I think we're hindering the businesses, as our planning director, Mr. Julian said, and I agree 100%.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate that. All right, I'm looking around. I think we're okay. So what we'll do is we'll repeat this process once again at 5 p.m. Thank you. Moving on to the last and final item, Sarah, please.
The last piece for public hearing today is an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to install additional signage at 1960 West Market Street and declaring an emergency.
All right, Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The petitioner is seeking permission to construct additional wall signage and a pole sign at this location. When the petitioner received conditional use approval for a marijuana dispensary recently, the site plan only depicted wall signage above the front entrance. However, resubmitted plans depict 2 additional wall signs and a pole sign. The additional signage is a significant change to the approved plan, necessitating a conditional use. The petitioner's approved request for a dispensary only noted signage above the front entrance, consisting of block lettering reading Clutch Cannabis, measuring 24 square feet in area. However, the newly submitted signage plans also include the same size signage on the east side of the building. Additionally, the rear elevation will contain a 17 3/4 square feet wall sign reading Clutch Cannabis Entrance below a logo. There is also a request for a 24 feet in height, 32 square feet pole sign. That sign will read Clutch Cannabis below a logo and will be centered within the existing circular landscape bed at the corner of Frank Boulevard and Market Street. One objective of the Land Use and Development Guide Plan is to promote good design standards for signage. In addition, objectives of the amended Wallhaven Redevelopment Area Plan include promoting development standards to improve the appearance of the area, along with upgrading conditions of the streetscape on West Market Street. The planning staff believes that the 65 3/4 square feet of proposed wall signage is necessary and will provide sufficient visibility for the corner lot business. However, while the planning staff acknowledges that a pole sign was at this intersection when the corner lot contained a bank, that building was raised 10 years ago, and the only part of the sign remaining is the pole. The stretch of West Market Street from the railroad tracks west to Waldorf Drive currently contains 9 pole signs. 2 additional pole signs on the west side of Frank Boulevard identify the neighboring businesses to the south. The planning staff believes that the 11 pole signs within this quarter-mile stretch of West Market Street are excessive and visually blighting. Adding another pole sign to the Wallhaven area is not harmonious with the objectives of either the Development Guide Plan or the Wallhaven Redevelopment Plan. The planning staff has recommended disapproval, while the Planning Commission has recommended approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate that presentation. All right, well, now we'll move forward and open this up for the public comment period. And Sarah, if anyone would like to speak in favor or against, please stand up so our clerk of council could swear you in. Sarah.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, I do. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Go ahead and step on up to the microphone and please state your name and address for the record. Thanks.
Peter Nish, 1951 Wiltshire Road, Akron, Ohio, 44313, just around the corner from the site we're talking about. Good to see everybody today. Thank you so much for your time. I do have my typical printout, although it's only a couple pages. I'm happy to pass it out to you guys if you don't already have a copy here, if you'd like. I'll be quick this time, I promise. So, as you heard, this is an updated sign package for our dispensary at 1960 West Market Street. Construction's underway, just as for some background. Actually drove by this morning. They were working on leveling and demoing the parking lot and probably getting ready to pour some concrete. We've had demo work going on inside for a while, and we should be operational here in August. First couple pages of this are just screenshots from the proposed site plan. The reason why we want to put a sign on the back is that the back is the entrance. The front is just the front of the building. It's a false entrance, just like it was in its previous iteration as a florist shop. We did propose having some signage on the side of the building. The reason why we would also like a pole sign is that the last site plan that was approved, the second time we got a conditional use permit for this will be the third, we were required to do some landscaping, and that involved planting trees. So we think that the signage on the building is going to be at least partially obscured by trees as well as other pole signs in the neighborhood. I can show you here virtually every business that we neighbor, that is down the street, in every direction, across the street, catty corner, all uses pole signs. That's everybody from the Taco Bell and the Take 5 and the Starbucks, the gas station, the pharmacies, the barber shops down the street. I think the only business maybe that doesn't have a pole sign that I can think of offhand is the car wash, which has a large tower on it where they've been able to actually, I think, probably exceed the height and size of any of the other pole signs in the neighborhood. So what we found operating in similar areas, and the most similar one, the most recent one I can think of is Northfield across from the MGM, where we are anticipating having a really similar business. The business is doing well there now. What we found is that it did not meet our expectations, even our modest expectations, until we put up a pole sign. Dispensaries in Ohio, as you know, are limited in terms of how they can advertise and tell people where they're at. We have tried to experiment within the confines of the state's advertising rules. For this kind of business, we've done some direct mail campaigns. We've done some digital advertising. We operate in a limited capacity on social media. We do email blasts, things like that. But generally speaking, the best way to let people know where you're at is to communicate with people in the neighborhood the way other businesses are communicating. And so we found that in Northfield, at least, when we put the pole sign up, people realized where we were and business started to pick up. And we've even seen that in Cleveland, where we have a really flashy marquee sign right on East 4th. Cleveland is a different kind of business. It relies on a lot of foot traffic. And so what we found there is we spent a bunch of money on a giant marquee, and the only people that can see it are the people that are on the other side of the street. So we've actually had to increase some signage, like with sandwich board signs and things, on the sidewalk in front of the building, just to let people know that we're there, because the interior of the building is required to be obscured from the public. So moving on to the next page here, why we need a pole sign. As I said, dispensaries have trouble advertising. We're committed to a communication strategy that we think is in line with the way other businesses are communicating to customers in the neighborhood. We think this is harmonious in the neighborhood. As you've heard, virtually every other business uses a pole sign. If we were prevented from having one, we would be the only business that was prevented from having one. Our understanding is that, but for the underlying use being a dispensary and requiring a conditional use, we would not have to go through this process in order to install a pole sign. We would be entitled to one as a matter of right, as long as we abided by other, it was code compliant otherwise, right? So there is this question of fairness here. We just want to be treated like any other retail business in the neighborhood, and all other retail businesses. If we were a Burger King, a KFC, a Taco Bell, a Starbucks, you'd be able to throw up a pole sign, no problem, as long as it was for the correct size and that kind of thing. The other thing I wanted to mention is that now that Larry's Main Entrance is a private business, they did have a pole sign there on the sidewalk. That, in the past, I think 6 months, has been taken down. So at least As far as the past 6 months to a year goes, while we would be throwing up a pole sign where the pole is now, at least on our property, it wouldn't effectively be an additional pole sign in the neighborhood. It would be the same number as there were maybe a year ago. I also I included a list of some of the businesses in the immediate vicinity of ours that have pole signs of various sizes. I won't read it here. You guys are free to read it if you'd like. And then I included a little Google map with some stars that show the locations of the other pole signs in the neighborhood. The only thing that I would note is that in front of our building here, where this pin is dropped, there's a red star. That's where the Larry's main entrance sign was. So if you look, it shows up on Google Maps, but it doesn't show up if you walk by it. Ours would be just on the corner here, where it's depicted in the site plan. I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
All right, thank you, Pete. Let's see if there's anyone else that would like to speak in favor or against this item that we're discussing. Anyone else? All right, we'll go ahead and close. Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and open it up to committee members, and I'll start with the ward council person first. And
thank you,
go ahead, Bruce.
Thank you, Chair. A couple questions for zoning. There's two properties here, correct? Or is it now all one property? Zoning originally came in for, is it 1950, which is the parking lot?
Right, they originally were approved for a site on the
Right.
vacant corner lot, and they acquired
Now
it for us.
right, so now we're at 1960, and the request is for 1960. Now, my question is, zoning code, from my understanding of it, it's by the front feet on the main street, correct? You get so many square footage of signage dependent on the front footage, linear front footage of the street, correct?
You're permitted, it's based on the larger frontage of whatever street it faces.
Okay. But let me ask this, maybe I'm throwing a monkey wrench in the plan. 1960 does not have frontage on Frank Boulevard. 1950 does.
Right, but he's using them and would probably combine them into one property to get that.
So would zoning have to change for both of them, or they'd have to combine? How would that work?
The conditional use was approved for the two lots together.
Right. So I guess my question is, to me, I look at it as this is a separate property. The parking lot is a separate property. If they're asking for signage for 1950, there's no building there. Maybe I'm being a stickler, but.
Yeah, I think we'd look at it as one property being developed jointly.
So they're not over, the signage that they're putting on the front and on the back of the building is enough signage for 1960. That covers that. Is there still room for 1960?
Yes.
Because you're adding Frank Boulevard in.
Right.
Even though 1960 has no frontage there.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, well. It's the third time we've been in for zoning here. And these plans keep changing. So I'm just wondering, and I can't forecast what's going to come next. But, my residents are kind of ticked off that I've talked to, that talk to me about, they keep coming back and keep coming back. I get it. There's pole signs. I know there was talk about a lot of online business a lot of these would be online business and people just ordering online and coming in and picking up. And I'm pretty sure anybody that can order weed online can probably go use Google Maps to find out where this place is without a pole sign. That's just my gut feeling. So
Could I address that?
I'll go ahead and, Pete, yeah, you can go ahead and address that.
Yeah, so what we had originally discussed is that, roughly 55% of the transactions that occur on a daily basis are conducted through online pre-orders. Where we're allowed drive-throughs, the drive-throughs kind of seem to impact that slightly. It ticks up a little bit because it's more convenient. But what we expect here is 50 to 55% will be conducted via online pre-orders. Now, that is 50 to 55%. So we're talking about the other 45 to 50% that is not, that are walk-ins, right? Which is why, we've oversized parking and done everything we can to kind of make sure that we have adopted a communications and advertising strategy that makes sure we let people know where we're at. So this is kind of in line. I mean, I'd like to at least address, and apologize for the inconvenience of having us back a third time. I think any other kind of business, we would not be required to do this and wouldn't put you guys through this. Certainly not our desire to have to do it, but we are full steam ahead now, and expect to be operating probably within 6 to 8 weeks, 6 weeks-ish. And so, at this point, we're just trying to put finishing touches, make sure that wayfinding signs are where they need to be. We're not used to having to come back and get a conditional use permit for wayfinding signs, even to mark the entrance of the building, for example. So this is a slightly different process than what we deal with in other communities. We're here trying to do the right thing. That's all. So the request should cease.
Thank you, Pete. Anything else, Councilman?
Well, I'll just say that the business you're in requires conditional zoning. So, that's the business you chose to be in requires conditional zoning. And in our code, that's the way it works right now. I struggle with a few things, to be honest. I struggle with $1 million investment in a building that is now not going to happen in my ward, that was originally talking about the building on the corner, that there would be limited, you're not even going to realize what it is, because it's going to be very discreet, and a pole sign, I hate to say it, is not really discreet. So I'm hearing different things, and I'm a little concerned. I'm more than a little concerned, because I've gotten a lot of calls this weekend, gotten a lot of calls over the last week from residents that are concerned.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate that. Before I call on anyone else, I do have a question, because I think I know the answer, but I want to make sure my mind is where it is. Is the pole sign moving forward is going to be exactly where the former pole sign was, or is it being relocated?
Mr. Nish could probably address that better, but I assume it's going to use the existing pole sign?
Yeah, there is
the pole for the former sign?
Exactly, yeah, it'll be the same location. So like on this, sorry, these pages aren't numbered, but it's the, I guess the 4th page of this. You'll see at the corner of Market and South Frank, right by the sidewalk there is a circular, I don't know, like some brick infrastructure there. And the pole there's trees there now, so it's kind of obscured, but the pole is still sticking out of the ground. And so that's where it would be.
So moving forward, now I'll come back to you, Jim, and the planning department. I understand we're trying to eliminate additional pole signs, but I know the planning department was originally against this because they don't want additional pole signs. But what my thinking is, we are discussing a business that's potentially going to put a new sign on an existing pole sign that was once there, if that makes sense. Instead of let's pretend or not pretend, but let's say there wasn't a pole sign at all on this property, or they're trying to relocate to install a new sign at a different position on their property. But really, what we're doing is we're going to potentially install a new sign on an old existing sign, if that makes sense. So where was the planning's kind of thought process on that? That makes sense.
I understand what you're saying. When the former bank left that property, they did remove the sign as the code requires. The pole remained, which now it's just a pole. That's probably allowable, but the sign is not there. So we're considering a new sign at this location.
Okay, no, I got you. All right. I'll go to Councilman Bolden, then I'll move on to the rest of the committee.
Thank you, Chair. If I'm correct, the sign that was there was for 1950, which was the bank.
That's correct, yes.
And the bank is no longer there.
Correct.
Making my point.
Okay, thank you. Committee members, any other questions or comments before I move on to other council members? Councilman Hannah? No, you're good? Okay. Councilwoman Linda Mobian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, there's no secret that I'm opposed to this business being there in the first place, and the neighbors are as well. And to put additional signage there, I think would go against what the neighbors want and what the neighbors expect. So I'm opposed to it, and I want to state that correctly. So I will be voting with the planning department's recommendation. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman. Anyone else with us today? Okay. With that, we will repeat this process today at 5 p.m., so you're more than welcome to come back. And that's it with our public hearings for the day. Thank you, everyone. We do have one piece in front of us today that's part of our new legislation, so do not go anywhere yet, please, committee members. And it is a ordinance authorizing the Director of Department and Planning and Urban Development to enter into a contract with the Habitat for Humanity of Summit County for the construction of 2 affordable single-family homes for low-income families in Akron and declare an emergency. And Helen Tomic, you're going to speak on this.
Yes, good afternoon, committee chair, committee members once again. As indicated, this would be a partnership between the City of Akron with Habitat for Humanity to construct 2 single-family homes in the Kenmore neighborhood. One would be on Tampa Avenue, the other one on Wilbeth Avenue. We are providing $110,000 of home funds, $55,000 for each construction, and they are scheduled to begin, I believe, in September, October of this year.
All right, well, thank you, Helen, I appreciate that. Committee members, any questions or comments for Helen Tomic, Councilwoman?
Thank you. Is it Fifth Avenue or Fifth Street Southwest?
Tampa Avenue and West Wilbeth. Did I say Fifth Avenue?
I thought I heard Fifth,
I-
but
I
that's okay. I
apologize.
might
It's
have heard
Tampa.
you wrong.
It's
Well,
Tampa Avenue and West Wilbeth.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman. Any other questions or comments from the committee members? Any other council members with us today? Okay, Councilman Greer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say thank you to the City of Akron and the Planning Department and for Habitat. They are such an amazing partner, and for you to be collaborating with them and adding these 2 new homes to the Kenmore neighborhood is a great thing. So I just wanted to thank you, Helen, and all of your team, and especially the organization at Habitat.
All right, thank you, Councilman. I appreciate those comments. All right, nothing else. Is consent okay, Helen?
Yes, that's fine, thank you.
I'll make a motion for consent.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for consent. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, we'll put that on the consent agenda. Now that is our final piece, and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Our next committee today will be the Rules Committee, and it will begin at 2 o'clock. Those committee members are McKittrick, Greer, Amobian, Connor, and Davis. Again, that's the Rules Committee, and it will begin at 2 o'clock. Thank you. It's 2 o'clock, and our next committee meeting of the day is the Rules Committee. Those committee members are McKittrick, Greer, Amobian, Connor, and Davis. We do have all committee members present whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Thanks. I would like to call the Rules Committee to order. We have previous minutes to approve. If I could get a motion in a second.
Motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Sarah, would you mind reading that piece in for us, please?
Sure. This is item number 1. It's an ordinance repealing Title VII Traffic Code, Chapter 75, Bicycles, Motorcycles, and Snowmobiles, Section 75.12, Bicycle Licensing of the Akron Codified Ordinances, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you very much. And I would like to turn it over to the sponsor, Council Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also have a PowerPoint that I hope works and is okay. It'll be brief, though. Section Akron Code 75.12 requires a bicycle in the city of Akron to be licensed. Why would we need to update this? Well, I think a lot of us know that bicycling is an important part of a lot of Akronites' experiences. We use them to go to the grocery store, to go to work, for leisure. We have a lovely tow path. A lot of people bike all around Akron. But licensing currently isn't really enforced. And we're not really using it in our policing or really any other enforcement. So why do we have it? And with the help of the clerk's office, was able to pull up some of the old legislation from the late 70s. We have, it would cost 30 cents and then $1.25 to have a license with the city of Akron to be able to ride a bike. Since it hasn't really been used, so we have seen a number of other cities slowly repeal their licensing ordinances. And so I have Cleveland up here from 2012, that was a while ago. Today I also found Middleton, Ohio, Bexley, Ohio, and University Heights has also repealed, and that's just a handful from just quick searches. So cities have started to roll back because a lot of cities aren't enforcing these things, we're not really using them, and it creates an extra burden on city staff to be able to enforce and use it. Like I said, current code requires a license, a fee, and bike tags. We're hoping to repeal this. I've been working with a couple other bike groups and folks you'll see as a supplement, a letter from one of the groups. And folks want change. We want biking to be more accessible and enforcement to make sense. So I'll take any sort of questions.
Thank you, Councilor. I know we had a conversation. I expressed one of my concerns was if a bicycle was stolen, but they'd be able to find it. But if you wouldn't mind talking about the registration, the national, which makes total sense, and seems like that would be a good fit for the replacement of that.
Absolutely. I also got a letter, which I'll try to add later, but from a city council person up in University Heights near the Cleveland area. And they were saying enforcement was, one of the main obstacles to getting it passed, and it eventually passed unanimously up there. But they were saying that, we don't really curate this list, this license list right now. And there is a thing called Bike Index, I think .org, that is free to use, and millions and millions of people registered their bike through that, and they help people actively find their bikes, track down serial numbers and things. So there are other registrations that are free and more adequately used outside of city government. So yeah.
Thank you for that. I'd like to open it up to any committee members. Any committee members have any questions or comments? And I see Councilwoman Amobian.
Yeah, I don't know. Is there anybody here to speak to why we put this in place in the first place? Is there anyone present to
I
speak?
don't believe so, but it appears that Council Representative Wilson's done some research on it and why some of the other communities are repealing it.
No, it makes sense to me what he's saying. I'm just wondering what was the original intent of this? What was the need for it in the first place?
I can try to answer that. On the legislation, there's no whereas clauses, so it's just kind of putting the ordinance in place. Some of the legislation talks about the need to enforce, and I think they might have probably had more staffing at that time to be able to track and regulate and enforce such a thing. I imagine the population at that time may be different as well. So those are some of the considerations that I was, probably looking at that time period.
Yeah, I read what was here and what was drawn, the line drawn through. So I was just curious as to are we missing anything? No, it makes sense. If we have something on the books and we're not using it and not enforcing it, why have it there? Thanks.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Hannah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was wondering, how long has this legislation been in force? And I don't really understand how it came to be because even in Akron today and across the nation, they're building bike lanes for people to ride their bicycles. Now, would this also apply to children's bicycles? Would they have to register them? And also, which is most important to me, is that we have a large homeless population here in the Akron area, and would they, if they're not registering their bikes anyway, so if something happens and someone steals their bike, they just go and get another one. But it puts a hardship on the homeless to register bicycles. Would that apply to the young children also?
My understanding, I think there was a provision, but it might have been another city. Other cities had like different age groups, different types of registration per age group. But this is a blanket registration. But again, repealing it makes sense because it is an unnecessary burden on city staff and on bike riders alike, and it just doesn't really make sense for today's world.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other council members? Not seeing any. What's your? I'm not missing anybody. What's your pleasure on this, Councilor?
Consent agenda is totally fine. If people want them all over, ask any more questions, that's fine.
Okay. Can I get a motion for consent?
No more.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Fine.
Any opposed? Can you do a roll call, please?
Sure. McKittrick,
Aye.
Greer,
Aye.
Amobian,
Aye.
Connor,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
The motion for consent agenda passes 5-0.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. We'll get that on the consent agenda. If anybody has any other questions, please reach out to Council Representative Wilson. We have nothing further to come before rules. We will be adjourned.
Our next committee today is the Public Service, Public Utilities, and Green Committee. Those committee members are Kamer, McKittrick, Wilson, Bolden, and Lombardo. Again, that's the Public Service, Public Utilities, and Green Committee, and we'll begin in just a moment here. Thank you. Okay, ready to begin the Public Service, Public Utilities, and Green Committee. Again, those committee members are Kamer, McKittrick, Wilson, Bolden, and Lombardo. We have all members present except for Councilman Bolden. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate it. And I'd like to call the public service meeting to order, please. All members are present, and we do have minutes to approve, please.
Motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, well, thank you. We're going to move forward, and we do have 3 pieces in front of us today. And our first piece is an ordinance authorizing the removal of designation as a through street for a portion of Hazel Street from its west terminus at North Adams Street to its intersections at North Arlington Street, and declare an emergency. And we have our very own Chris Sluttle, our service director, with us today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. This piece of legislation and the next piece of legislation are directly related to our traffic calming efforts we've done in the last few years. As you know, we've had we've tried to drive forward, especially in residential districts, to slow traffic down. So this piece of legislation that's before you about Hazel Street is, by removing the designation of a through street, we're going to be able to reduce the speed limit from 35 down to 25 through this residential area. So that will allow us to obviously slow traffic down and reduce speeds in this corridor. So it's about a total of between North Adams and down to Arlington and all the way through the other part of the business district. It's a stretch of about a little over a mile that we're going to be down to 25 miles an hour.
All right. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Committee members, any questions or comments for Mr. Luddle? Don't see any. Anyone else with Councilman Fran Wilson?
Thank you so much. I just wanted, this is a great piece of legislation. I'm also just very interested in the process by which this happens and this gets onto council's desk. If you could walk me through this.
So by the council passing this legislation or this ordinance, that gives us the authority then to go back and designate this as not a through street by ODOT standards, and allows us to reduce that speed limit. If we just would say, this is all residential, why is it 35? We just couldn't go change it by traffic code. That's why passing this, by getting council's approval, then we can reduce the speed. And the cost, as you can see, is like $250. What all that means is we're changing the signs. That's material and labor, and we'll do that in-house.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate those comments. All right. Is consent okay, Chris?
Yes, sir.
Motion for consent.
Second.
Motion and a second for consent. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Well, thank you. Moving on to the next piece is our ordinance authorizing the removal of designation as a through street for a portion of Cyberlink Street from its intersection at Hobart Avenue and its intersection at Salem Avenue, declare an emergency. Chris, once again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. Again, this is just our ongoing goals to advance in our traffic calming. So if you looked at Cyberlane, if you drove the corridor from Triplet all the way through and past Goodyear's headquarters, all the way up to Market, you would see 25, 35, 35, 25. So what this allows us to do in that residential area from Triplet all the way to Archwood, it'll now be one straight 25 mile an hour instead of two different 35 and 25 in those districts. It'll be continuous all the way up to Archwood. Now, from Archwood to the roundabout, as you travel to the north, it's going to stay 35 through that business district, test tracks on the one side. But once you hit the roundabout, it will be 25, or it is 25, all the way to Market through Goodyear's headquarters. So this allows us really to clean up, as not a through street, the residential area from Triplet all the way to Archwood.
All right, thank you, Chris. Any other comments or questions on this one? All right, is consent okay?
Yes.
Motion for consent.
Second.
All in favor of consent? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. Moving on to our final piece is the ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of publicly advertising for bids with Aimrise Building Envelope LLC, doing business as Duralast Roofing for the construction of 717 Credit Union Park roof replacement, and declare an emergency. Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. As you know, when the stadium was built 30 years ago, there's different level roofs, as you can see from the outside, and we have not done a full roof replacement at any time in the stadium. So we own the stadium, we're responsible for roof replacement. We did look at some proposals last year and to do just an overlay of what's there. But once we got into it, and it's in the capital budget, you can see that we had this in the capital budget to replace the roofs this year. But once we really did some inspection, the roofing had compromised the insulation underneath, which obviously has a direct effect to the heating and cooling of the building. So we went out and we looked at state pricing. We got 4 quotes from roofing contractors that use this type of material, and Duralast, or this company by Duralast, was the low bid. They were the low bid by almost a little over $1 million. The other 3 bids were all over $2 million. So this is going to be a complete tear-off and complete replacement of insulation that helps reduce the cost of heating and cooling and reduce the infiltration of water into the building. With that being said, these prices and getting that in the queue, we are not going to start this till after the marathon because of the disruption not only of the stadium but also, so this won't start till October 1st. We do want to lock in not only this pricing, but we want to lock into their schedule, right? We want to get them locked in, and we can tell them when we pass this legislation, okay, we've got authority by council to move forward, get us on the schedule, we want to go October 1st if possible. That way we get this thing done before the dead of winter. So with that, sir, I will take any questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments from the committee members for this one? Councilman Bolden?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just a little, and I know you probably don't know this, I'm just wondering with the, when we read this as 717 Credit Union Park, and council has not seen that negotiation or whatever was involved in that contract. Obviously, it does not include any maintenance on their part of this, of Canal Park.
The owners of the team, yes. And I would refer to law, but the way I understand it was the owners of the team always had the right to do a naming rights of the stadium.
Okay, so.
Okay, but when the new owners bought the team, the city still is responsible for operations and maintenance of the facility.
Okay.
That has never changed. That was in the original contract, and this is one of those things. Now, they are responsible for some things, and, to get down to the nitty-gritty about what they're responsible to fix and what we're or repair, or what we are. But this is a major improvement, right? A roof, when you talk about plumbing, you talk about heating, the things that you've seen in the last 5 years. We upgraded all the heating to our Akron Energy. We got rid of all those heat pumps, which saved a lot of money. Probably $60,000 a year in electric costs, right? Because we went to a higher efficiency system. We went to LED lights. Now they pay the electric bill, but we do the improvements, okay?
I just wondered.
Yeah, they pay the water bill, they pay the electric bill, they pay the heating bill, that type of thing. But these major capital improvements are the responsibility of the owner, which is the city.
Which is us, right?
Yes.
Okay. I kind of figured. I just wanted to ask. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman. I appreciate that. Fran Wilson?
Thank you, Chair. Just 2 quick questions. What kind of damage have we seen to warrant the replacement? Just curious.
Well, over the last probably, I would say 6 or 8 years, small leaks, right? Where the carpet gets wet and you go in there and you patch the roof. But at some point, just like any other facility you own, you got to, at some point, do you quit patching and do a full replacement? We've been talking about this probably for 3 or 4 years. We have to do something with the roof, right? It's 30 years old. So we're going to get another 30-year warranty, 30-year guarantee on this roof. So it's just time, okay? We haven't seen where the roof caved in. We haven't seen that, but small infiltration in different spots. And, you know, it's hard to tell you with that insulation wet, is the heating cost gonna drop by X or Y? Or you know, are we getting that type of loss because of the insulation? I would say yes. On a 90-degree day, is that air conditioner running more or less, which is harder on the equipment? Which means that shortens the life of that equipment too, right? But the water damage itself, mostly it's been small leaks into the suites, some into the ticket office, where, you know, you can't have water leaking down on top of the computers or ticket office, so we have to go in and patch them. So it's that time. This capital improvement is needed just to keep up with the life cycle of the roofs.
Thank you. And then one other, I know, you know, our capital improvement for 2026 was 570. I see that here.
It was 570,000. It was on page 16. I am familiar with it, sir. And that's what I said when we originally put this into the budget. We didn't think we'd have to do a full tear off. We thought we'd be able to do a layover. And we thought at that point, when you do an overlay of the roof, you don't replace the insulation. Mm-hmm. But after this, we did the estimates, and, you know, when we went to finance and capital and planning and said, listen, we really need to change this, so we're gonna have to go, and we talked about, do we put it off another year? Do prices go up even more? So we worked with finance to get that done this year. So we will start this year, but you're gonna probably see something in the capital budget next year to finish paying this off next year.
And the financing general obligation, so that's debt. Do we have any specifics about repayment or anything like that?
I don't, that'd be a finance question.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, I appreciate the comments. Anyone else? All right, I know Chris mentioned he would like to get the dollar amount locked in, so I'm asking the committee for suspension of the rules.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
All in favor of suspension of the rules, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. That is it for us today. We're adjourned.
Our next committee today will be the Budget and Finance Committee, and it will begin at 3 o'clock. Those committee members are Lombardo, Amobian, Wilson, Boyes, and Bolden. Again, that's the Budget and Finance Committee, and it will begin at 3 o'clock. Thank you. It's 3 o'clock, and our next committee meeting of the day is the Budget and Finance Committee. Those committee members are Lombardo, Amobian, Wilson, Boys, and Bolden. We have all members present except for Councilperson Wilson. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Clerk Viviano. Welcome to the Budget and Finance meeting this afternoon. Can I get approval for last week's meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. This afternoon, we have one item here, and it's an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts to extend and continue the Early Childhood Resource Centers managing the implementation of Phase 1 of the Unified Early Learning System and declaring an emergency. And we have Ms. Rochelle here. Wardle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, I appreciate you giving us time today to give you an update about our Unified Early Learning System. Today with me, I have two other presenters. One is en route, which is one of our providers, but getting away from childcare is tough, but she will be here to speak with us. Next to me is Gina Houston. She is one of our coaches in the child care centers and homes who will help me to describe what we've been doing over the last several months with the early learning system. And in the gallery back there are many of our partners who've come to support. We have folks from the Urban League, Akron Metropolitan Housing Authority, Summit DD, Child Guidance and Family Solutions, the University of Akron, Heart to Heart Leadership, and the Early Childhood Resource Center. Did I miss anyone?
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen here.
All right.
We are officially in our 10th month of the early learning system, its first phase, and today I want to give you a progress report with the data that we have through the first 8 months of the system. But before I talk about the what, I want to revisit with you why it's important for the city to be investing in early childhood in our community. Early childhood is one of the very few investments where you are solving two problems at once. We're both working to improve workforce conditions today for our local businesses and for our working families by making sure they have reliable care and can get to work. We're also preparing our next generation's workforce, making sure they have the best start that they can so that they enter kindergarten ready to succeed. And so that makes it essential infrastructure. It's just like roads or broadband. It helps the economy run. And I want to point out that in Akron, we don't have what sometimes you hear about childcare deserts. We have plenty of providers. What we lack is full enrollment in the providers that exist in our community, and we also have about just half of them qualifying as high quality. So what our opportunity is to strengthen what already exists in our community. It is not to build a new childcare center. It is not for the city to run childcare. It is for us to make sure that all of the providers that exist in the infrastructure that we have can thrive. And all those providers come from many different backgrounds, and they have different types of funding streams, they have different regulations. I often say that childcare is like a patchwork, and what we're trying to do is stitch it together to one system. We're not trying to tell families where they should send their children. Families make that decision very personally. They choose someone down the street, or they choose a center that's close to their home, or they qualify for special support through the school system. That's the family's choice. What we can do is to help each one of those different types of settings succeed. Joe. This is Jo White. She is the owner and operator of Circle of Life Child Enrichment Center. Hi, Joe.
Welcome.
So I just want to reiterate, the city's not here to tell anyone how to do childcare or tell anyone how to pick childcare. What we can do as a city is convene our partners. We can help make strategic investments. We can build that infrastructure and tie it together. We can make sure that the outcomes we set out to achieve are measured, and we can leverage other community investment. We're not operating childcare. We're not replacing community partners, and we're not telling anyone what to choose. So I want to talk a little bit about the framework of what the early learning system is. When we sat down with a couple of dozen early childhood experts starting in 2024 to build this system, we didn't sit down to say, what kind of training should we provide? We sat down and said, what can we do for providers so that they can thrive? Because we know that we hear about kids not being ready for kindergarten, but that's the tip of the iceberg, right? What we know is under the surface, there are many conditions that is making it very hard for childcare providers to thrive. There's a workforce shortage. There's incredibly high turnover. There are barriers that families face. And so we're not just trying to do one thing. We're not saying, oh, here's the magic curriculum. What we're saying is, how can we as a community wrap our arms around childcare providers so that they can help every child succeed and every family get to work when they need to? It's about the business, right? Thriving businesses create better outcomes for children. It's about the teaching and learning, making sure that the teachers have the best training that is possible. Not that they're just checking boxes to make sure their licensure is up to date, but actually giving them intensive learning opportunities so that they can help children succeed. It's about making sure that those businesses have strong leaders so that the leaders are able to retain their employees and cut down on workforce turnover. And it's about making sure that family partnerships are strong, because when families and providers work together, children are better off. And then finally, it's about collaboration. No one provider or no one agency that supports providers can do it alone. So if we all come together and we work as one system, not just individualized programs, then we'll be better off. So in this next section, what I want to do is give you one short example of how these 5 capacities play out in the system, and Gina's going to help me do that. So the first one that I mentioned was business. We need to strengthen our businesses. All of the people who run the 200 childcare providers that we have in the city of Akron, they didn't necessarily get into it because they went for an MBA. They didn't step into this work because they thought they were going to make a lot of money and they knew exactly the software system and the accounting system that they needed to thrive. They got into it because they love children and they want to help form young minds. So what we can do is support the businesses so that they can thrive.
As far as the businesses, they take classes at the Akron Urban League. We even had a provider that went from home base to center base. She was having trouble hiring quality teachers, so we encouraged her to do a cost study with one of the staff members from the Early Childhood Resource Center. She is now able to pay a higher wage, higher quality teachers, and her enrollment has doubled.
In teaching and learning, as I said, we want to make sure that every teacher in our child care centers from infancy through kindergarten entry has the most up-to-date and the best education that they can so that they can provide developmentally appropriate education to our young people.
Being a part of the project gives teacher access to a behavior coach, literacy coach, and quality technical assistance coach. The behavior coach works with the teachers in the classroom to help with challenging behaviors and modeling strategies, offering support and sharing tools that the teachers can use to manage behaviors better. The literacy coach supports the teachers with curriculum implementation and helps strengthen language and literacy practices within the classroom. They provide guidance, model strategies, and offer support to help teachers promote children's language and literacy development. The quality technical assistant coach helps improve the overall quality of the classroom. They support teachers with licensing requirements, curriculum implementation, classroom management, and modeling best practices. They also provide support in any area where teachers may need additional assistance.
And if I could add, as I said, this isn't about just meeting the 10 hours that are required by the state for licensing. What we're doing is really intensive training. Our two key pieces of training that we're offering come from Summit DD and the University of Akron. Summit DD is working with each classroom and classroom teacher, talking about inclusive classroom environments to make sure that every type of learner is supported through the system. And the University of Akron is a leader in the science of reading in our community. And they're setting out to teach every K-5 teacher in Summit County the science of reading. And through our system, we're reaching down to the 4-year-old classrooms and making sure that all of our preschool teachers also have that same type of training that is the foundation at the developmentally appropriate level for 4-year-olds. So as I said before, strong programs need strong leaders, and we're leaning into that with Heart to Heart.
Providers attend a monthly leadership class through Heart to Heart. Through these sessions, they have gained knowledge and skills that strengthen their leadership development. The classes have also created a supportive environment where providers encourage one another, build meaningful connections, and serve as mentors to each other, creating their own network and support systems. One of the providers facilitate focus groups where providers are invited to discuss and share their business and operational needs. These conversations help identify common challenges and opportunities for support.
When we were working on building this system, we learned that the Head Start model, which is a fantastic model for early childhood, we learned from our friends there that helped us build the system, that they have a person on staff that is dedicated to helping families be connected to services that they need. And so we tried to emulate that in our system and create a navigator role that would work across childcare providers to make sure that families are getting connected to the services that they need.
The Family Navigator visits local food banks each month to obtain food for families in need and helps ensure they have access to essential resources. The Family Navigator supports early learning centers by assisting with family engagement efforts and strengthening connections between families and programs. Many providers reached out for assistance on challenging behaviors, which resulted in connection to community resources and early intervention.
And then finally, this is about weaving that quilt together, right? It's about making sure that our support from Summit DD and AMHA and Child Guidance and Family Solutions are all coming together and supporting in a collaborative way instead of in silos and pieces and parts.
Twice a month, the coaches meet to discuss how things are going at each center, share updates on their current work, and identify ways to support one another. During these meetings, we collaborate and brainstorm strategies to effectively coordinate services and provide comprehensive support for each center.
So that was a little bit of the story of why, but for folks like me and want to see some numbers, I want to tell you how things are going in our evaluation, which is being carried out by Summit Education Initiative. We set out with 4 outcomes in mind in this first phase. We want to decrease worker attrition. We want to increase enrollment in our centers. We want to improve the quality of each classroom, and we want to make sure that families are getting connected to the services that they need. It was a slow start on turnover among workers. We saw astoundingly, in just the first few months, we had one provider lose 60% of their workforce. We had another provider who ideally they'd have 21 people, and in a matter of 2 months lost 16. Those were the first few months of this system. But finally, in March and April, it started to stabilize. And when we took a look at the 3-month attrition rate, from the 3-month attrition rate that ended in January to the 3-month attrition rate that ended in April, we saw a 59% reduction. Around April, we first started to see that we were hiring more people into the system than that we were losing. And so we are seeing this positive trend in the right direction. As far as enrollment goes, I told you we don't have a childcare desert, right? But when across Summit County, of the slots that we have available, only about 65% of them are filled. And when we started this system with our providers, I believe we were around 44% enrolled with the folks that were in our pilot. We have seen that grow by 12 points. In quality, we use a validated tool that measures each classroom and several measures in each classroom that tell us if quality is there. We did a pre-test and a midpoint test. And at that midpoint test, we had improved on 4 of 6 of those measures across the board. That is on average. And interestingly, on the classrooms that did not see an increase in quality, they also happened to be the classrooms that had teacher turnover. So the work that we're doing on the workforce retention is incredibly important for the stability and quality of the care that is being provided. And then finally, we're seeing that 50% of our referrals have successfully turned into a service connection. And you might say, well, is that good, right? 1 of 2. And to that, I'll say 2 things. 1, the 1 out of 2 that hasn't been successfully connected, those referrals are not closed, they are still being worked on. And 2, if I could tell you a little bit of how service coordination often goes, and it is due to the nature of, honestly, of funding and metrics, right? Service coordinators are often told, you got to make referrals, and we're going to count them, and we're going to data enter them. We're going to data enter them. And so service coordinators often go and they'll give a slew of referrals. Oh, you can do this and this and this and this and this. And they'll give 10 referrals at once, right? And then they've done their job. They made those referrals. But what we're trying to do is not to just make referrals. We are trying to connect families to services. So we're making very meaningful referrals. And so far, we're seeing that 1 out of 2 of those have already resulted in service. So the work behind those outcomes, we've put in over 1,500 hours of coaching. We've had 21 professional learning sessions offered for the teachers. We've done 25 family engagement activities, made over 56 referrals, and had touch points with families on over 800 occasions. Now, this all comes from what our pilot is made up of, which is 8 providers of every type. There are 30 classrooms among those 8 providers. It is a mixed delivery model, which means, as we've been saying, it is family providers, center-based providers, Head Start is at the table, Akron Public Schools is at the table. It's every type of child care provider you can think of, and in this field, they call that mixed delivery. And then, because we learned from our partners across the state who said if they could do it again, this is how they do it, we are working from the infant classrooms up to kindergarten entry so that we're not creating more disparity in a system that is already full of it. This means we've invested in at least 60 teachers and aides. We have invested in 4 coaches through workforce, through behavioral health and childcare, And we are working with more than 10 local vendors, including those who are in the gallery with us today. So far, as we've been raising funds for the early learning system, it has turned out that our commitment as a city has helped the community more confidently invest in this as well. When we ran calculations, for every city dollar, there's been $2.24 invested from our community partners. Now, this doesn't include the funds that we have committed to this system from outside of our community. This is just inside of our community. So there have been, in addition to this, there have been state funds. We're getting some money through the National Fund for Workforce Solutions, which is now called Shift Work Forward. And we have also received a grant from the U.S. Conference of Mayors. But locally, you'll see in this pie chart, that's the public investment. That's money from the city, the ADM board, and the county. The green is philanthropic investment from GAR Foundation, Akron Community Foundation, Barberton Community Foundation, and others, including individuals. And then the business community is also investing in this project. They, the Greater Akron Chamber has reached out to their members and found funding for us for that. And we also have local bank investment as well from PNC in Huntington. And then folks like United Way and Summit DD are providing services in kind. So I want for a moment to turn to Jo White and have her tell you about what it's like to be part of this system, what it means to providers like her, and what it was like before. Jo, you just got to press that button right in front of you. Yep.
Okay, everybody. So first, I just want to say, like, this is something that is very, very, very near and dear to my heart. I've been an educator for about 33 years. I started as a floater, and I always laugh because the person who hired me told me that she was going to put me in the infant classroom because they were the easiest, and that turned out not to be the case. And after some years, I was promoted to program coordinator, assistant director, director. I've worked with Head Start for a few years, and for the last 2 years, I have owned and operated a family child care home called Circle of Life Child Enrichment Center. Started out, I was a type B center where I could have 6 children enrolled, and then I came before you guys last year and was approved to have a type A center. So now I have 14 children enrolled and 4 staff. When this process started, okay, so about 15 years ago or so, myself and colleagues started looking up and just seeing fellow educators and just seeing how stressed we were. How, like, all of a sudden it seemed like we had so much work to do because we had so many kiddos that needed us, so many families, and it seemed like there was just not enough time in the day to get it all done. We started seeing like an increase in children with special needs. We started seeing an increase in families who were just stressed and struggling for just basic things, food, shelter, to take care of their families. And unfortunately, around the same time, a lot of my colleagues started leaving the field because of health issues and needing to be present for their own families, and it just started to become so much. So anyway, so when we started the process with Unified, I was just like, oh my goodness, just have been teaching for so long and managing teachers for so long and being told by, the corporation that I work with or the entities, it's not possible to get it done the way us as educators were trying to advocate to get it done. We were trying to explain that things are different now. You know, for whatever reason, we can argue about why, but things are just different now. Families need so much more. Children are struggling so much more, and we have to figure out a way to do it different. And was always, oh, no, just keep at it, you know, just keep at it. And just, again, wasn't working. And so when we started this process, I was like, oh my goodness, how are we going to get this done? Because just being in the thick of it, I also didn't see. And just deciding that the wraparound services was an important piece of it, and just deciding that investing in the providers was just as important as the monies that programs were just getting directly because of its overall potential impact. So fast forward to when the pilot started, and I just cannot say enough how much I appreciate feeling like the city is supporting education and is supporting children and families in ways that are tangible, that trickle down to us feeling the support. So for me, this is bigger than just helping my business and my school. Being a part of Unified has been life-changing for me as a provider, and I'm excited and hopeful that more of us can benefit from it. Each of us has to see everyone's child as our own child in order to build on school readiness, create more opportunity, and help make our city safer. My experience with Unified Early Learning System has been just that. Professional stakeholders that get just as excited as I do when one of my students achieves a milestone or a parent gets much needed support. They get just as excited as the staff when one of us achieves another level of excellence. It makes me as a leader remain focused on a vision where I'm not alone, trying to accomplish what can seem an impossible task, trying to maintain and build on my program for my children, families, and staff. Imagine how it would be if each child and family and educator in our city felt connected to a support system like this. Whenever things get too challenging, I now automatically take a breath and know that I'm not alone and that all I have to do is reach out for help, just a phone call. I can't even describe how good it feels, again, to be able to depend on my city and they always come through. My job is still the hardest job ever, but just that I know I'm no longer alone to handle these things myself. Continuing to invest in early education sends a message that education and caring for each other is power. It shapes their perspective that as children grow into adults, they are loved and important, which inspires them to want to do well in school and become productive community members. The wraparound services help families to focus on things like helping their children with homework, attending school events, and enrolling their child in an enrichment activity, instead of having to struggle so much to get access to basic human rights like food and support for their special needs child. It's so important to develop and support quality early education programs because each of us are who we are going to be by the age of 3. The focus on social-emotional skills at this age builds the foundation for young children to be able to do things like develop confidence and self-regulate. As they get older, they have mastered it, allowing them to demonstrate respectful, positive behaviors conducive to them, to learning, and then to move on to gainful employment and become active community members. I often remind myself of the fact that investing in early education is not just about our young kiddos, but it's about our youth and our young adults as well. I started in the field again over 30 years ago, and I was in my early 20s and trying to figure out my life and my future. My childhood was extremely difficult. There were times when I didn't see the value in my own life and had to figure out what God had for me or what my life could possibly be about to bring myself meaning. In this field, early childhood gave me purpose and a way to be proud of myself and to give back. There are so many people in our cities at all ages like me at that time who are currently looking for quality programs that will help be their village, a safe place where they, their children, and families can all get the support they deserve and have a right to. Our smallest kiddos are limited in being able to articulate words, but they are desperately needing and asking for our help and for us to be there for them. It shows up every day in their challenging outbursts and behaviors. It also shows up when they walk past me. So they have this thing now, they've given me a nickname. I'm not Miss Jo, I'm Miss Joey. And so they're like, Miss Joey, give me a hug. hug, and that's all day long, and it's like, and they're starting, it's a parade of them, and they're all wait, and they're all giving me this big hug. And in those moments, I'm just grateful for you, for Unified, because it is possible that I would not have been able to expand without the support, and also would not have been able to hire additional staff so that I can get a break and I'm not working literally 80 hours a week. I'm extremely grateful that Unified Early Learning System is working towards that goal every day. Many of my friends who are owners, administrators, and or teachers are no longer in the field after being so burnt out. Those who are still fighting the good fight have said that they were so close to closing down and or changing careers, but now we all have a renewed sense of passion. I look forward to this being the life of many other educators in our city. I look at my son who works with me at Circle of Life as a lead teacher, and he was talking to me over the weekend. He had no idea that I was going to share this story. I had no idea either. But he was telling me, we had a recent field trip to a local park. And he was telling me about a situation where as they were leaving, one of the babies that was there has played with them throughout the day, and the baby was saying bye, bye to them, and they were just kind of leaving, didn't even really register that a child was saying bye to them. If it did register, they're babies, so they're not thinking about manners and all that kind of thing. But he told me that he was like, hey, guys, your friend is saying goodbye. And they was like, oh, sorry, goodbye. And I was telling him, because he also didn't realize, and I was saying that those moments like that are moments that start to foster them feeling connected to their community, them feeling a part of their city, them feeling like their neighbor is a friend, and those interactions and us building on those type of experiences for them plays out as they get older. I am here today, one, because of the support from Unified. I was able to hire another teacher because I couldn't be here. I would have to be in the classroom. I was in the classroom earlier this morning, and it took me a minute to get out. But that's the hat that we wear as providers, as owners, as educators. We're the moms, the dads, the nurse, the doctor, the judge, the jury. Like, we're everything at all times for the children as teachers, and then also for the parents. I tend to look at the bigger picture. I understand that investing in Unified helps children and families, but also teachers who choose to spend their days pouring into others. It gives these educators a way to provide for themselves, give back to our city, and do what they love to do with less stress. And actually, a lot of time, the same wraparound services that are there for the children and families help us also, help the teachers, administrators, and providers. We are living in the same communities, we grew up together, and we have the same or similar struggles. Many of the same resources and services being provided to families are beneficial for educators because it allows us to not have to focus so much on those things like food insecurity, housing insecurity, and we can be all in when it comes to our classroom and our children and supporting and helping them. Before opening my program, there were so many instances where I put my daily task on hold to support a teacher going through horrible circumstances, from domestic things to homelessness to drugs to violence in the community to just so many times where teachers literally broke down, distraught, crying, and having to, get them out the classroom, get somebody in there, and just walk them through into what Rochelle spoke of early, and trying to navigate the 50 million different telephone numbers that you leaving messages and no one's calling you back till 3 months from now, and you probably hopefully resolve the situation by then. So the fact that the services are a phone call away is monumental. Well, there was one of my teachers who was homeless, so imagine not having a home and then having to show up every day smiling and singing songs and feeding children and not knowing where your own children were going to lay their heads that night. I'm reminded daily when the families speak of their older children and young adults that they too benefit, because when their families live under so much stress, just trying to survive, they can sometimes make unsafe choices that hurt themselves, others, in our community. Helping to create stronger programs can be a window for children and youth of all ages to make better choices and decide to stay in school, graduate, and enroll in college or a training program, or maybe even decide to become educators themselves. It's a way to make an incredible difference. Supporting young children is how we help keep our communities places that we can all be proud of. There are so many in our city looking for quality programs that will help be their village, a safe space where they can bring their children and know they're learning skills from experienced and highly trained educators and quality programs with wraparound services easily accessible for them. There is a saying held dear in my field. It speaks to children's journey being about the process and not the product. And what that means is that education should be about laying a foundation, creating quality environments, being able to purchase quality materials that help inspire their natural creativity, that help them to learn cause and effect, trial and error, and then you build upon that, as opposed to what is the end of the product or something that you're wanting for them to learn. It's about them enjoying the experience and coming up within their own self what they've learned from it and how they can apply that. For too long, I think we have invested in the product, focused on a certain test score or result, and in the meantime, we have forgotten that children learn through discovery, trial and error, and when they feel safe. There are not enough words to explain how much it has meant to me to have the city's support and acknowledgement of the work I do, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Joe. So that is our presentation for you today, Mr. Chair. I end with the short ask that you all continue the city's commitment for phase 1 to round it out and keep walking alongside us as we look to scale and improve the system.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, could you turn on your microphone?
Do that.
Thank you.
So I was saying thank you, first of all, and very powerful message. But one thing that struck me is that you said that there are plenty of providers, but yet there's a lack of full enrollment. Does that mean, I don't know, is there transportation issues, cost issues? Is there
the biggest issue
advertising? I mean, what
there are a number of issues. The biggest one in these current times is the workforce shortage. We have classrooms sitting empty in our providers because they cannot find the teachers to staff them.
So they can't take on more children?
They can't take on more children because you have to meet certain ratios under your license.
Oh, okay.
And so you have to have enough teachers to serve your enrollment. Okay. And if you can't fill each classroom with teachers, you can't take on more children. Okay. Marketing and other things also go into play. Transportation also goes into play. But I would say transportation, it's not about families, it's about the workers and their barriers to transportation.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to open up the floor to any committee members with any questions. Councilwoman Tina Boyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Wonderful, wonderful news. Looks like you're making great progress. This is still a pilot currently, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and you said you have 8 providers. Are you looking to expand that? If so, by how much and when?
Yes, so right now, this is, as most would consider it, a pilot phase. We're calling it phase 1 of this system we're building. Phase 2, we will have a number of folks coming in first through one of 2 avenues, either through the Business Accelerator, which I was in front of you guys a few months ago, to support, we're working with the Greater Akron Chamber and Early Childhood Resource Center and Akron Urban League to enhance the business supports and also Heart to Heart to enhance the business supports so that we can scale that work first. We already have 10 home-based providers lined up to do that starting in the fall, and we look to do another 10 independently owned centers. And the second part of your question, and then another avenue they will start to come in through is through the University of Akron through their science of reading instruction. So these two things will sort of become the anchors of the system, the entry points upon which all the rest of the supports will come.
Mm-hmm. Councilwoman Linda Mobian.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Rochelle, for what you are doing. Just an excellent presentation. You know, you talked about the pillars that you are addressing, but as long as we know that we're investing in early childhood, we have much, much better outcomes as the children matriculate through school. And we know that. The research has been real clear that when children go to school to learn, they're not misbehaving in the classrooms as much. And a little focus has to be paid attention to that. And all of that stuff spills over into bad behavior of all kinds, you know, violence and so forth. So as early as we can get into these families and work with these children, the better off we are as a community, as a civilization and everything. I'd like to address my one question to the owner who did the presentation. I think is it Joe White?
Yes.
Yeah. How much time are you spending on all of these other things? Because, you know, as important as they are, and I know they are critically important, and I know they build your business in many ways, are you having to invest a lot of your own time into those learning centers, mentoring programs, and all the other things that you're doing? Roughly how many hours are you talking about?
Somebody did it for you?
Yes, ma'am. So there is definitely time that, because there are trainings, leadership trainings that we participate in, and because of the support of Unified, it is allowing me to actually be able to focus more on building the business and supporting the teachers and the families and children, as opposed to being in the classroom all day and then also having to do the business aspect of it and then just not having much time and energy and time in a day to do all of that. So now it is definitely a commitment of time, but it's manageable because of the support, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. You know, one of the things I could tell you that as a social worker, counselor, teachers, we don't get into those businesses for money. When we can see positive outcomes from our work, it really inspires us to go back the next day and give more. So I can see why the attrition rate is going down and that the enrollment is going up. And the family involvement piece, are you having a lot of success in getting the families involved? Because that's one of the things you hear from teachers is that, and other entities, that they can't get families involved as much. Are you having a different experience with that?
Yes, ma'am. So, always the challenge. As a center director, always the challenge. So we had a field trip over the weekend that families participated and showed up. I will say that in order to, that is a challenge for sure. So we've just had to be a little bit more creative. It's more likely for us to have parents participate when they don't have to go anywhere. So like when we have things after hours on site, or we can figure out a way to have them on site during business hours, it's much more effective. And most of those times I get at least half, sometimes all the parents who participate. If it's something important like during this process too with Unified Early Learning System, there were interviews, I would guess you would call them, that the program did of parents. And there was also a kickoff celebration that a parent attended. So when they're on site, it's much more feasible, and I get more buy-in and more participation from parents. But the parents do participate because I'm able to kind of step away from the day-to-day classroom stuff more now. I can be more creative in how we do that as well.
Yeah, I think the word creative is great. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Chair.
Councilman Eric Garrett.
Greetings, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity. Wow. Miss Joe, your presentation was amazing, sister. I mean, the way you laid it out, the way that you showed your compassion for our kids, our community, wow, head and shoulders. I mean, I have so much respect for what you do.
Yes, sir.
It was so impressive to mention your son as being involved as well. I mean, that's really what we need to give back to our community. Have these little kids to see a face that look like theirs, to make them want to be here, know that somebody else cares. I'm concerned about a couple things as it relates to your budget. We have to be intentional. Gas prices are intentionally high. These burdens are put on folks, and a lot of folks with low income, if they make a certain amount of money, then they can't get on assistance, so they may not want to come out to be that teacher. I'm hopeful that with the budget director there, that we can look at, because it's a pilot, more pay for the teachers. I mean, if you have a room full you have a room and you have the kids, but you don't have the staff, that says one thing, that they're not being offered enough. And because it's a pilot, you can design this pilot in such a way that we would attract more of these people to help her out. And I'm getting to my question here, and I'm rounding third base. I was out at the Home Depot in Cuyahoga Falls, and it was a group of kids just out running. And I pulled up on a police officer and said, "What are they doing?" He said, it's a teen takeover. And he said, they're not listening to any authority. They're not listening to any of us. And so to see you, Miss Joe, trying to tackle some of this before they get to that certain age where they'll be just running around, your passion, your son, I applaud you for what you do. And I'm hopeful that maybe we can consider an additional budget for those people who are trying to get out of poverty but need to work, but falls on that line that if I make this amount, then I can't really do that. Some suggestions or something just to offer, if you're trying to get people engaged and people to be there, those parents, and I'm just speaking from a child care owner myself, I think it's important that maybe you consider spa days with the kids, with the mom and the daughters, to get people there, to get them excited, do an activity, a craft or something, or invite them, and now the mom and the daughter can maybe experience a good time, to get them involved. Perhaps maybe feed them with the budget, offer a little bit more to get them there, but do whatever you can to get these kids involved. It's so critical. So just thank you so much for your team, Ms. Joe, and what you do. So much respect. Godspeed, and I hope folks donate and give a little bit more to what you do. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I
Yeah,
could
sure, Rochelle.
make a comment about the wages. Councilman Garrett, you are very right. You can do so much for your employees, and if they are not making enough to meet their basic needs, they will always change no matter how much they love their job, right? And we recognize this, and we see it in all the headlines, the national headlines that you see about childcare: low wages, high tuition. And these are things that we hope to address. But because we do not, at this time, have sustainable long-term financing, we are in these early phases trying to do things under the surface that are not necessarily the headlines. We're trying to stabilize businesses so that they can hopefully find more in their budget to pay their employees. We're trying to set them up for success and without throwing funds that we may have to pull away. I've been doing this work for quite some time in philanthropy before this. And early in my quest to help stabilize childcare, I awarded a grant for wage supplements, and later learned when the board who makes those funding decisions, when they didn't want to fund that anymore after I had left that organization and went to another, then that provider was left stuck with a wage increase that they could no longer afford because the financing wasn't there and it wasn't sustainable. So in our early phases, we're not addressing that just yet as much as we want to. But we are working toward this system where we can find sustainable public financing in order to have a community that can pay our early learning providers what they deserve to be paid.
Thank you. Thank you for that response.
Joe.
And just to that, real quick, and I appreciate you for everything that you're doing. If we're trying to make sure that this is successful, to get it off the ground, I mean, because like you have rooms that aren't being filled. And so to get it off the ground, I think that's something that you should consider. I appreciate your response. I appreciate the scenario that you posted, and I'm sure that's a phenomenal. That was that one particular case. This right now is just what the economy is doing, and if we're trying to really put this sister in a position to be successful, I think if she had the staff, she would be more successful. That's all. But thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for your comment. That really helped.
Yeah.
I will say that we have several parent partnership events. So we had the trip we just had, and we're having a lemonade sale stand tomorrow, and we're having a back to parents night out where the parents get to stay a little longer for their children and they can kind of hang out. So, and during those times, I was able to give the staff bonuses. So I can't afford to pay them as much as I want to and as much as they deserve, but I was able to give them a bonus. So whenever we have those events, they get a bonus on top of their weekly salary. And we have this guy that's coming, I can't remember his name, but he has animals. He's coming in a few weeks to the center for that, so the parents don't have to do anything. And then we're having another trip to the Children's Museum. So the staff are getting bonuses when we have those events that parents are going to be attending with us. So that's one way that I've decided to incentivize them that I would have loved to have back when I was a teacher.
Thank you. One question. This $125,000 extends the contract till when? Does it say?
Through the end of this year.
Okay, through the end of this year. All righty. What's your pleasure on this consent agenda, or does it need to pass right away?
We are not necessarily in a big hurry.
Okay. Well, anyhow, I'll make the motion to suspend the rules with a favorable report.
Second.
I have a second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, there you go.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thanks for everybody showing up today.
you.
Appreciate everything you guys do for the kids. All right, yep.
Okay, we do have a presentation from Brittany Stewart. She's joining us virtually. Oh. Sorry, I thought you were joining us virtually.
Yes.
Yes, I'm usually based out of Washington, D.C., but I'm here for the week to speak to you all, among other meetings.
All righty. After everybody, just one more second. There you go. All right, if you want to introduce yourself again.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, hi everyone. Again, my name is Brittany Stewart, and I am the Mayor's Data Transparency Strategist. I would like to thank the Chair and the committee for having me here today. And I just want to give a presentation sharing more information about me, the work that I'm doing, and the Mayor's data transparency goals more broadly. So a bit more information about me. I've spent nearly 15 years working in the areas of program management, organizational effectiveness, and strategic communications. I have done this work in the private and public sectors, including at the federal government level, within the tech sector, as well as in support of small businesses. And I've also done this work domestically and internationally. I have graduate degrees in public administration and public policy, and am currently pursuing my MBA in technology leadership in organizations. And ultimately, I'm here because I'm very passionate about helping governments and mission-oriented organizations better understand and use data, technology, AI to be more effective and impactful towards their mission, and most importantly, to be able to do it all sustainably. Now, to get more into the work, let me actually start with some definitions. So what is data and what is data transparency? In the simplest terms, data is recorded information. So think about 911 calls, permit applications, anything related to 311, and I'm sure all of us could come up with even more examples. Nearly every single day, nearly every single department collects recorded information. They collect data. And so we have thousands of data sets, which is essentially specific collections of recorded information that we collect day after day, right? So you can imagine how large and how expansive our data is. And most U.S. cities around the country have the same thing, and in some ways have the same opportunity. And I will say, especially with this growing interest in introducing data analytics, AI, and emerging technology in the public sector, many cities, Akron included, are quickly realizing that if we better organize and manage our data, we can really turn it into a powerful asset. Now, I also do want to say that we still do data-driven decision-making already. I think Rochelle's presentation was an excellent example of data is currently being used to inform the work that Akron is doing, but a lot of it is fragmented, siloed. Some departments are more mature than others, so it's really about, I'm going to take her word, unifying all of that work together. And so when I talk about data transparency, I want to maybe use an analogy, because I'm going to get a bit into more technical and complex terms, and so hopefully this is helpful for you all, and I share this with the mayor's office and have found good feedback on this. But imagine you're looking for a book, and you go to a new bookstore to purchase one. But the bookstore, as you walk in, is essentially a building full of thousands of books. Right? There's not much organization. Some sections of the bookstore are organized. You can think about, the mystery or the romance section, right? History sections. And so if you have a book in those sections, you're able to get service more quickly. But overall, if you're interested in multiple books or a book that's outside of that section, it's more difficult to access it. And so in this bookstore situation, you want to move from a building full of books into a Barnes & Noble or any kind of established bookstore that you can think of. You can directly translate what I just said into data. We are the building, and we have thousands of books. We have thousands of data sets. And so right now, again, it's happening throughout the city government, but it's difficult to access. And so what we're trying to do, and what this role is trying to do, is build that foundation, that structure, the policies, systems in place to make it easier for a customer. And by customer, I mean internal users within the mayor's office, you all as the council, and really most importantly, residents will be able to access the data that they need. And so that entire concept is really what I'm talking about when I say data transparency. And the mayor understood this and understands it now. And so when he came into office, he made a commitment to make city government more open, accountable, and effective for residents, and realized the importance of designating a role dedicated to carrying out this vision. And so this is a position that is funded through a one-year grant from the GAR Foundation, and the grant started in October of 2025. Now, to get a little bit in more detail about where Akron is in this journey, I'm going to go back to the bookstore. Hopefully it's helping you understand this. But as I spoke about, right, there's this bookstore that has a lot of books. And if you think about an established bookstore, what is there that has been helpful to you? One is having set sections, right? So what is nonfiction and fiction? Being very clear on that, and then being very clear on which books go where. Having technology in place. These are thousands of books. It's not humanly possible for one person to know all of these books. You need technology to help manage that inventory. Training staff. Some staff members love books and are able to understand what you want and help you get it. Others, although enthusiastic, may not have that training and expertise in order to help. So and certainly everyone wants to provide quality customer service. So again, everything I'm saying can be translated into the data work that we need to do, and that's really where we build that foundation where we're currently at. And then ultimately what we want to be is the Barnes & Noble equivalent, right? A data-driven, well-run city. And so that's us being future-focused. Now, speaking a bit more about building that foundation, right, I'm going into more and more detail. At the highest level, there are two layers to this. Again, this is simplified. One is building this data infrastructure. So again, this organization that I've talked about when I'm discussing this analogy of a bookstore. Same thing for data again. And that's what really what this role is here to help support. There's also equally important in building this technology infrastructure. Like I said, it's very important to have technologies in place to make it easy for staff and customers, again, to be able to quickly know what data is there and where it's located. And so you'll need those in pairs, but we're starting with data. So also when it comes to approaching this work, nearly every city maybe has a bit of a different approach, and we have to find one that works best for Akron. However, there are still best practices that we can use for inspiration to further inform the work and how we do this work. And Bloomberg Philanthropies has a certification program called What Works Cities. And as part of this program, there are 43 criteria. And so consider it somewhat like a checklist, not necessarily in chronological order, but if a city government takes actions or produces documentation that helps them meet these criteria, they would be essentially following best practice and be quite confident that the work that they're doing is leading them to become well-run and data-driven. And we have made great progress. Since last year, the mayor's office collectively has already met 14 of the 43 criteria, and we are 8 more away from obtaining the the lower level of certification. But we'll certainly continue well beyond that. But it's not just about getting a certificate, right? It's even pursuing this certificate program gives us opportunities and access that it would be more difficult to obtain otherwise. So we now have access to a network of U.S. cities as well as cities in Latin America, some who are in the same place we are, even further behind, and some who are mature and advanced and can share lessons learned as well. And then we also have access to expert training, resources, templates to help us build that the framework and infrastructure that we need, that if we were to do from scratch would be certainly much more difficult. Now, I will admit, this is going to take a long time. Many of the cities that we spoke to, including Cleveland, who has been doing this work, has taken them many years to get there. And we understand that, and that's okay. And however, even in the year, or close to the year that we have been doing this work, we've already made great progress. And so these are some of the wins. One is we've already done quite well in establishing that data governance. So back to the bookstore example, think of this as the broader upper management that is coming in, seeing all of these books, and is determining how to structure the store accordingly. We have that now through our data governance board. So they are the ones who are going to come in and help us make decisions and policies and practices to ensure that we are building our data foundation correctly. Also, once you have better access to data, you're able to use it to further inform the work that you do. And so the board has finalized 54, and in some industries you might call them key performance managers, key performance indicators, but in this case we're calling them performance measures that in the city government case help us either one, better understand city conditions and then develop new policies and initiatives accordingly, or two, help us better evaluate and fine-tune our existing policies and initiatives. And then finally, again, back to this bookstore. Imagine now this bookstore has a website. And so you, as a customer, are able to self-service. So you'll be able to find the book you're looking for and check it out much more easily than you would even walking into the store. We have a website now that will be similar to this scenario, but for data. So in May, we launched a community dashboard, and you can access it at akronohio.gov/dashboard. And to start, we have taken the Mayors Together for Akron tracker that was previously on the official website and have moved it to this official dashboard and have reformatted it in a way that is hopefully more accessible and digestible for any users. But when referencing these performance measures that I just spoke about, we'll also be rolling out visualizations, so graph, charts, analysis on that site as well. So you as the council or any residents would be able to access that publicly. And so what this means for residents, I could really do a whole presentation on that. And there's hopefully, we believe, a lot of positives even now and certainly into the future. But here are a few kind of top points. One is hopefully a resident will be able then to use our community dashboard or other dashboards that we create to answer questions about their community and the conditions of their community and the city more broadly. Such as, this is just an example, of is my neighborhood safer than it was, right? We'll be able to give them data that informs that answers perhaps that question. Is the city spending my tax dollars wisely? So I just mentioned a lot of our strategic dashboard work, but we're also going to be rolling out operational dashboards. And we're going to be starting with finance, as well as then looking into engaging select departments to add more. And so I'll just share a mock-up that Steve has made as well that could be helpful. And then thirdly here, what I'm currently speaking about is quantitative data. So this is objective data. Equally as important is what we call qualitative data, and that's resident feedback. Residents can tell us about their city and address gaps in the data that we're collecting and just really provide a perspective that we may not have or the data is not showing. So we want to develop an opportunity for residents to share their feedback, which we will aim to analyze against quantitative data that we have. And this is just an example of the finance dashboard. As we further develop it, it might be changed, but again, dashboards like this will help residents and again, you all as the council be able to answer questions that you may have. And so final slide here, or second to last slide, what's next? I spoke about this already, but just using this slide as a recap. So we will be rolling out the visualizations of these performance measures starting in the fall on the community dashboard. We are continuing to then scope out additional operational dashboards, but again, we're starting with finance, scoping and then identifying the best mechanism to gather and analyze resident feedback. We'll also start in the fall. And then ongoing, we'll continue to engage Bloomberg and leverage their resources and network to further meet additional criteria, certainly to achieve the first level of certification, but certainly we'll go beyond that. And so in conclusion, this position here is really to support the mayor's commitment to being a more transparent, accountable, and results-driven city. I am really grateful to the mayor and her chief of staff for having me in this role. I am not from Akron, but I've really enjoyed the opportunity to apply my skills and passion to helping hopefully drive more positive outcomes on behalf of Akron residents. So again, thank you all for having me here.
Thank you, Brittany. Very good. We pulled up the dashboard right now. Just to preview. It looks really good.
Yes. So akronohio.gov/dashboard.
Yeah.
We've tried to make
I
it easy to
assume
access.
Darren had a lot to do with this too.
Yeah.
Right? Good job, Darren. All right. We have any questions from our committee members or?
I guess I have.
Sure.
I
Councilman.
appreciate the presentation. A couple questions I have, I guess, for finance. You mentioned on the front end that your position is funded by GAR, correct?
Correct.
Is the whole project funded by GAR, or was this an operating or capital project in our budget? I'm starting to look.
So just the position is, and then, to the extent that we are building out things, that's all part of our operating budget.
Okay, is there a line item in the budget that this is there, or it's for building this out?
It's mostly just employee time.
Yep, and using
IT department,
resources.
it's Darren and his staff, or.
Correct.
Okay, I just wondered. I just wanted to figure, didn't know. I started looking through the budget. I'm going, I can't find this anywhere. So okay, thank you.
Yeah, I will say Bloomberg Philanthropies, the certification program, their resources are free. So we've also been seeking to use their services and resources as much as we can.
Yep. Councilwoman Tina Boyes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we've heard a lot about transparency publicly, but I value data because it allows you to make good, objective decisions internally. How is this data driving how we make decisions internally?
Well, I think a lot of it, again, is already happening. I will say there are certain departments and certain within the strategy team more broadly in their initiatives, it's already existing. I will say when it comes to the Together for Akron agenda, when it comes to further developing the community dashboard, there are the 43 performance measures that I mentioned, but nearly every single initiative is already collecting data. It's just making it more visible and centralized. So it's currently happening. It's just, in our case, a lot of the times is making it more visible for folks who are interested in learning more about its impact.
Okay, very good. Councilwoman Linda Amobian.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. Thank you so very much for that, because I know everybody's moving toward data-driven decisions, so this is certainly going to help us more as we move forward. But this is great. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Councilman Mark Greer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. I am interested, as the data starts getting shared, how will the qualitative versus quantitative data be shared? I mean, will that be available in the same dashboard, or will the qualitative data not be public? I just wanted some more information.
All of that will be public. I think how it's visualized is dependent upon the data that we collect. You can put only so much in one dashboard, so it probably would be a more built-out website with different pages that is tracking initiative measures, performance measures, and then we'll certainly be sharing publicly the qualitative measures. And so there's different ways that you can analyze it and visualize it. So as we scope that out, we'll be making those decisions then.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All righty. Well, again, thank you for your time and your energy here. That was a very good presentation. All righty. So if there's anything else, nothing else coming before the Budget Committee, we are adjourned.
Just real quick, Mr. Chairman, in terms of the data for the next week's mid-year budget review presentation, we are beginning to post that out really in the same directories that we use for this year's operating budget. I will be sharing a link with council in order to access that data. So we are posting those documents out on the SharePoint drive. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Very good. Well, that'll be it for the budget meeting. Sarah, any final comments? No.
I do want to thank everyone for your patience. I know we have some guests here for housing and neighborhood assistance. I do want to be respectful of everyone's time, but I do, if we could give just a few minutes before we begin that committee. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We'd like to call the council's Housing Committee meeting to order. We do have minutes to approve. I don't remember what the date was. If you could help me.
That was June 8th.
Okay, from June 8th. Didn't need to be approved.
Motion to approve?
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are approved. We do have one item up for consideration, and could you please read that in for us?
Sure. This is
Viviano.
item number 7. It's an ordinance amending and/or supplementing Title 9, Chapter 92, Animals, Section 92.29, Beekeeping of the Akron Codified Ordinances in order to modify beekeeping standards in the city and declaring an emergency.
Thank you very much. Don't know where to start. Would we like to start with, okay, we'll start with Director Lash.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the council. This legislation is as was described by our Madam Clerk, and this afternoon I've asked Councilmember Wilson to give the further explanation. I believe there are some guests to speak on this as well.
Great. Councilperson Wilson.
Thank you, Director Lash, for your coordination and help with this. I'm going to go ahead and share a presentation, but then we'll have like little comments and open it up for questions. We'll try to keep it on point. Let me share my screen now. All right. Akron City Code 92.29 covers beekeeping in the city of Akron. We'll do a quick introduction around. Carl?
Hi, Carl Harp. I serve as the board vice president for the Summit County Farm Bureau.
Michelle Colopy, I'm the executive director of LEAD for Pollinators.
Randy Katz, I'm the Summit County Apiary Inspector.
And then Emily Mueller will probably join us soon. She's refilling her meter. She's the former Summit County Apiary Inspector. But she'll be joining us as well. Just wanted to have a good moment here. So up here we have a couple different types of flying creatures here. Does anybody know which one? Mr. Chair, do you know which one is a honeybee? I know he knows that it's number 3. Pop quiz. Mr. Chair knew it. Okay, number 3. Honeybees are really important. We'll explain why in a moment. But they help to keep our farming alive in Ohio and our food production alive and well. And they also have a lot of other community and environmental benefits on the local level. Why do we need to update what is currently in place? Because what the current code does is it deters us what we want to support and what we should support here in the Akron. We should support urban keeping. We should support teaching useful and valuable life skills and support the environment as well. What needs updating here? Our current code currently requires a city permit for beekeeping. It restricts on several different ways where hives can be kept on parcels. And in some cases, it does ignore what is considered best practices. And it is quite burdensome for beekeepers to be able to follow what is in city code and meet those expectations. What is before us today is an update that we have been working on for a couple months now to remove the permitting process from the city side, allow more hives to be on more types of lots, and to share enforcement between the city, the county, and the state. And also ultimately to emphasize best practices in beekeeping. What would allow more hives on more lots? By changing the footage restrictions from right-of-ways and public roads and neighboring parcels and structures to allow certain numbers of hives per parcel size, and opening the door for urban agricultural in general. We also have a rather restrictive water clause that requires water sources to have a backflow preventer, which is a strange clause. So we are hoping to change that as well. Why remove the permitting process on the city side? Because it is not enforced. We also should understand that the state has a registration that all apiaries are supposed to be registered with anyway. The city is not necessarily an expert so far in beekeeping and keeping up to date, but the county and the state are and do employ experts on the subject. Shared enforcement, what does that look like? That looks like relying on the state's regulatory force, which is on the state level and also coordinated down to the county level, trusting experts at the end of the day and coordinating with these entities to be able to enforce when needed. I will note that talking with the state apiarist and the local, it seems like there's not a lot of things that get to the enforcement level, but we can get into that in a moment. All right. So I'll open it up for questions and concerns or any statements from folks. We have a lovely panel of lots of experts from the bee and environmental world, so happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there going to be more quizzes?
No more quizzes, Chair.
Just checking. I appreciate the work you put into this. Obviously, you put a lot of time into it, and appreciate that. Are there any questions from committee members? Pardon me?
Thank you, Councilman Fran, for that presentation. And you scared me when I looked over there. I saw that big bee on you. I said, but my question is, how will these new ordinance be enforced?
Absolutely. So I don't know if the county apiarist and the former county apiarist want to talk a little bit about enforcement.
So my boss is in Columbus at the ODA, Ohio Department of Agriculture. He would get the complaint in, I suppose, into his office, and then he calls me, and I go out and inspect the hives and make suggestions and recommendations to remediate and fix it.
I will also add, if I may, this provision basically instructs the Department of Neighborhood Assistance to coordinate. In case 311 gets complaints, then we shoot them up the ladder up to the state, because they have, through their registration and through the department, as he was saying, their own mechanism for dealing with these sorts of things.
Are there a lot of illegal hives in the city of Akron? And do you know how many legal hives are there in the city of Akron?
So we don't know how many illegal. We only know how many registered. And I don't have that number exactly. What is the total number of city of Akron apiaries?
I think one of the last counts was about 72 for the city of Akron, but there's between 300 and 500 within the entire county.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then because of the current permitting process the city has, nobody knows if they're allowed to have bees, really, because the current legislation isn't clear. No one knows where to issue a permit. It's always been bounced around. Even when I first began beekeeping, the county health department was supposed to go out originally and assess a nuisance, but they said the current law you folks have is unenforceable. And nobody knows where the permit process is at the city. So since the state apiary program has a permitting, that's the best place to start to get people to register. And now that it's free, it was $5 before. Mm-hmm. It's easy to do it. But when you have beekeepers who don't want to register, it is because the law isn't clear and they are afraid of the guidelines. This one is quite clear. It goes to best management practices, which every beekeeper is taught in every class. So you have criteria in which to judge if something is a nuisance or if it is just Mother Nature.
Okay, you said it's free, right? You don't. There's no
the
fee
permit
now.
process is now free at the state, yes, but you are required to still register your hives because it is part of animal husbandry, and bees themselves can have their own pests and diseases.
Thank you.
Councilman Garrett has his hand up, please.
Thank you, Chair. Couple questions. Great job, Fran, on putting this all together, working with the team there. So one of the questions is, so a constituent has a huge beehive in their backyard. Are they calling 311 or is there another number to call? Or is that something they would have to reach out on their own to get an exterminator?
So currently, the code that we're promoting here is that there's going to be, that hopefully we'll work with 311 to figure out how to pass stuff up to the state and report to the state, but that the state has its own reporting that you can report to. But there was somebody wanted to talk about swarming, maybe.
I own Mueller Honeybee Rescue here, and I service the Akron area. And I do go out and collect swarms for free for the community. I am registered with 311. I am on their list of people to contact, as long as it is honeybees. If it is outside of honeybees, then we refer a local business here in the Akron area to go out for extermination purposes. Some people aren't aware of the difference between hornets, yellow jackets, wasps, all those things. And so we have them send us a picture, we identify it for them, and then we give them the best route for what they should do to eradicate their issue.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And then the other question is, was there a particular test, Fran, for my colleague Sharon Connor, a reference to bees? Thank you so much, Chair.
I know she would ace it if there was a test.
Thank you so much. I'm at home. I'm not taking any tests on a little Zoom camera, but thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from other council members? Councilman Greer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm certainly in support of increasing the honeybee population. One of the questions I was going to say, do we have data on how many nuisance calls come into 311 about current hives? I mean, is this really a problem or not?
It's not a problem on our end, and I do not have the exact number. If you'd like me to provide that, we can get that for you.
Okay.
Something we can,
I don't have any
any
just wondering.
numbers.
It doesn't seem like it's a widespread problem, but I just wanted to make sure.
Anyone else? I guess question I have, so we're not going to register, are we going to register in the city, or is it just registered through the state is what we're talking about doing?
Would rely on the state because they have an active registry. And then it feeds into their employment throughout the different counties.
Is the registration process online? Is it really simple? Okay, great. So we're not going to do it like the housing stuff. Okay. And I'm understanding that the service department is, your department, Mr. Lash, is in support of this, or?
Yes, the Department of Neighborhood Assistance is in support.
And one of the calls was about if they call 311. I would assume it would be similar to anything else. I mean, if it's a county-related facility, the 311 knows to send those over to the county, because I've been sent to the building department a couple times over there to get some information. So I'm sure that will kind of move smoothly once we have the process in writing and the way it is. Okay, great. Is there any other questions here? Councilperson Wilson, what's your pleasure here? What would you like to do? Do you want to take some time on this? Do you want to?
Consent is fine. If people want to mull it over for a little bit, ask me any questions, feel free to do so. And I'll also say, if anybody wants to join us, I think we're going to be having a press conference on Friday at 1 p.m. I think it's at 1064 Jefferson. It's at the Akron Honey Micro Farm. So anybody's welcome to join. We'll be doing some education about urban beekeeping and why it's important for Akron.
Thank you. Do we have a motion for consent?
Motion to consent.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay, we're going to consent agenda. Appreciate your time. Before we close housing, Mr. Lash, I talked during the planning department, we talked about HUD and the money that's coming in. I asked about the lead grant, the $1.75 million lead grant, and asked kind of a status on it, and they said to check with you. So they wondered if we might be able to bring whoever's administrating that program to housing next week to kind of give us a little update.
I can work on that.
Okay, I appreciate that. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Anything else to come before committee? All right. Motion to adjourn? So moved.
So moved.
All right. Thanks.
That is our final committee meeting of the day. Council will meet in special session at 5 o'clock. Thank you.